Hey guys, how's it going? Been a little bit since I did a live stream, so I thought I'd pop on here. One sec, let me turn down the music. But I've been working my butt off since going full time on YouTube at the getting back from vacation at about June 10th or so. I actually started working on a studio and I'm building it all myself, so it's taking a little bit. Obviously, it's not something you can just throw up in a week, and I'll show pictures here probably towards the end of the live stream, just so you guys can see the kind of progress what I had to working with, because I'm basically cutting out a portion of my garage. So, what are your thoughts on Clear Linux Bread Moth? Get out of here with that. Clear Linux, I know I came down pretty hard on it, but there are some good things about Clear Linux. Um, but will I ever use it? Probably not. No, I just don't see myself ever using it. I think it has its place, but I just don't want to see Intel rise to the top of distributions and things like that. That just does not sound good. So that's why I'm not a big Clear Linux fan. I don't really want that happening to the Linux community. But at the same time, if Intel wants to contribute and make like a side distro that we can pull from and get better performance from our Intel machines, by all means, hey, I'm not gonna knock on that at all. You pop out my chat. All right. Whoa. Here we go. But yeah, so my garage, I'm going to show you guys some pictures here briefly, but I've been kind of keeping up with my patrons on Patreon about it and kind of posting daily, so everybody kind of knows what's going on, but I'm trying to keep up with my daily videos as well. And I also have my old job still, but I've gone to 2 days a week there, and that's actually been a really nice transition. But at the same time, this is a bit overwhelming. I'm very, very tired. I haven't even had time to get a haircut. I probably look like somebody out of the 80s. But overall, it's going really well. I'm really excited for July to get here because I think everything's going according to schedule. And once that happens and I have the dedicated studio, it's just going to be so fantastic. I'll be able to make a lot better content than what I have been making, because this last couple weeks I've just been throwing out videos with very little editing and prep time. So that's why this past week and a half is not exactly my best content, but at the same time I've been just trying to make the videos happen at the same time of trying and juggling all these other things. Thanks for the donation there, Nah. Or no. Take some Polish. Thank you, sir. But overall, it's going really well. I'm going to go ahead and flip over to my desktop and kind of just show you guys what has been happening, where I started, where we're at now, because I'm really, really happy and just kind of proud of all the progress made. Now, I've set like this ridiculous timetable to get it done by July, but I think we're going to get pretty darn close, and I'm very, very happy with it. So let me go ahead and pull up my photos here, because you guys just got to see this. All right. And zoop. So this right here is what I started with. The spot you're looking at is actually where I envisioned the studio going. So this is what it was like at the beginning of June, right before switching over to full time and actually spending some days. So as you see, there's some work to be done. So after day one, this is kind of what happened. I cleared everything out, organized, threw a whole bunch of stuff away, kind of got the walls cleaned up a bit. I still got to like mud and all that, but I'll do that during the walling phase. So this was after kind of day one. Day 2, I constructed just a basic wall for this side. However, ran into a problem with the joist in the actual lighting fixture here, and I actually ended up having to tear that down. So the actual lighting, you'll see right here, I actually had to tear all that out, and I'm going to replace that with all that. So pretty awesome. That all that kind of came out pretty good. I also tied all these lines back in, and that is totally good now. I actually did most of my electrical today. So I got it all lined up with the joist there. Went ahead and put a 45-degree angle with a 20 or about a 2-foot door there, and kind of did that. I really like the angled look, so it's not going to be just a boxy space for the studio. It should make for some really nice aesthetics when it's all done. That, and I also kind of, if you look on the left, right up here, this is the attic ladder, so doing a complete square room, no room for that. And then I finished out that wall, brought it all the way there. Still some touch up to do as far as some of the framing, but for the most part, the framing's all completed. I completed that last week. And then kind of today, I kind of looked at the electrical. I wanted to bring in 220 volt for the rack. I got a 44U rack I'm putting in. You're going to see in the background of all the videos. So I'm filling that out with some equipment, and that's going to be capable of doing up to 7,800 watts with that, because it's a 30 amp 220 volt that can do quite a bit of power, and that's actually in the lower right hand side. I also went ahead and added another 15 amp today down on the bottom. 15 amp, 1 pole, so that's a 110 volt. And then I got all kind of the lighting and dropped a couple outlets. Like this outlet over here is actually a separate circuit running AC unit for the new studio, mainly just because I wanted the AC completely off any electronics. The 220 volts going to run like a lot of big power servers and things, and then also that. So that's kind of what's going on with that. Hey, appreciate the donation, PHP. Oh, suffering from a Windows disk problem and auto update while playing League of Legends. Oh, yikes. Yeah, League of Legends actually played decent on Linux, but then they had an update that broke it. So, oh, sorry about that, man. That sucks. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I have this cable on the left-hand side over here. This is going to be the dedicated 15 amp circuit. The 220 that I talked about is actually a whole enterprise strip that's going to be on the actual rack itself in this corner. And this actual desk and everything's going to be over here with the camera. And I think I have one more. Yeah, I put in track lighting up here. This is a $30 fixture from Home Depot. It was on sale, and I was like, you know what? I can put in some soft lights and do some nice lighting for that. Maybe even do some RGB, you know, because everybody loves that. So that's kind of where I'm at on the studio, guys. It's really going well, but I've been doing this all day during the day, and I'm just exhausted a lot of times. That's why if you're watching some of my videos and I'm just like, hey, this is how you set up a firewall, it's from that. So a little bit tired from that. And then a little cat tax to finish this off, just kind of update you guys on what's going on. This is Cloud, and this is Palmer over here. They recreated the Michelangelo on the bed, so I thought I'd take a picture of it. Oh my god, I love it.
Sounds like build some cat ladders, trapeze, and tunnels.
Oh man. So let me. But yeah, so that's what's been going on with the channel and me and whatnot. Remember event. Oh, yeah, I need to probably add event. For sure. But as far as power, it's definitely not going to be underpowered, to say the least. I'm going to be able to push over 10,000 watts to this room through 3 different circuits. And 2 of those circuits are going to be dedicated specifically to the studio. So as far as power goes, I'm going to be good. I'm more concerned about the air circulation, that type of stuff, and then also ambient noise. So that's going to be fun. But yeah, oh man, it's kind of what's going on. But I wanted to pop on here just for a little bit, just to kind of say, hey, what's up, guys? Kind of touch base, see what all's going on with everyone. I know it's been a little bit since the last live stream. I think it's been almost more than a month, and I apologize for that. A lot of times I get a little too caught up, but I'm gonna try and do at least once a week until I get caught up. But with the studio going, I'm sure I can do maybe even twice a week on the live streams and still be jamming out daily content and that type of stuff. It's just with all this going on, obviously, I just haven't had any time. Are you going to review PC tech in the future or more software stuff? Yes, I will actually be reviewing more tech stuff and software stuff because I will be doing some sponsored videos and things. So, with the sponsored videos, a lot of times somebody will come to me and say, hey, we'd like you to review our product. I say, hey, I'll do an honest and fair review, but at the same time, I also did get paid for it. So for paid reviews and those types of things, I won't obviously ever say, hey, it's going to just be a positive review all around. I always will give pros and cons. And if I don't like a product, I'm just going to tell you I don't like it. But at the same time, during those, I will make sure to tell you guys, hey, this is a sponsored review, and then go from there. So, but yeah, so you'll be seeing more product reviews for sure, but probably one every week or two. Nothing crazy, because I'm not a product review channel. I'm not very good with B-roll and some of the filmography, so. Oh, man. One second here. I got somebody. Hide user. There we go. Bam. Alright, that's not normal. Fedora usually slows down slower than other distros and it shouldn't hang. Yeah, I'm also thinking about doing a new spin and jumping away from Debian. I'm toying with that idea just because I said I'd be on Debian for a full year, but I think at this point, I think we've established Debian is extremely stable. I've been on it since the beginning of the year. We are now on like month 6 of Debian, and I'm on Debian SID, and I haven't run into any issues, like 0 in 6 months. So vanilla Debian is amazing. It just sucks to set up. If you guys remember that setup process, that was pretty bad. But I was thinking about moving away from that. I don't know. I'm definitely going to be doing some Linux from scratch in July. So doing an entirely new distro spin, but we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, and that's just the thing. Being more unique on tech reviews, that's like everyone has, like every tech review I watch on YouTube, and I don't even really watch any product or software reviews on YouTube anymore. And that's mainly because it's usually them talking about the feature set and then they do a B-roll and then that's pretty much it. And it doesn't actually show like real world interaction with the software or hardware, and that kind of sucks. So when I do my product reviews, I definitely, the first couple ones I did, I kind of mimicked the standard, and I just didn't like doing it. I was telling my wife, I was like, I really hate doing product reviews like this. And I think doing real world interaction during a product review would be a lot more helpful to pretty much everybody. So you can actually see the product work and do things and give examples instead of just saying, here's the features, here's some cool RGB and a nice panning shot of this with some cool hip music going in the background. So yeah, I do plan on doing that. So yes, a different take for sure. A couple upcoming videos with the whole Ubuntu scandal with the whole 32-bit thing that got way overblown. I decided to make a video on how to take a vanilla Ubuntu install, and then upgrade it to like Pop OS. Because Pop OS is just a spin of Ubuntu, really. with some modifications, and I wanted to kind of just take a vanilla Ubuntu and then just kind of upgrade it to Pop! OS without doing a reinstall. I thought that'd be kind of interesting, and that also kind of plays into that whole distributions don't matter, because certain distributions can actually transition into others. So like Debian, for instance, a lot of people don't realize on my Debian path, I started with Debian stable. It was far too old. I moved to testing or buster release, and that upgraded it, but I didn't actually reinstall or anything. And it was still a little too old for my taste and a little too slow. So I went ahead and did buster to SID, which is like the dev release, or pretty more bleeding edge. And again, that was just an update of the repos, and it automatically upgraded all those. Same things can be done with Ubuntu to certain distributions. So you can actually take a vanilla Ubuntu install and transition it into different distributions. And I was going to kind of show how to morph from one distribution to another without reinstalling. I thought that'd be kind of a fun project. Yes, Linux from Scratch Challenge, LFS Challenge for sure. That's coming in July. I've already taken that up. I already told everyone I was going to do that. So for sure, that is definitely coming. What do you think about Android-based operating systems for PC? Android-based operating systems for PC. They suck. I mean, that's... yeah, Android itself, I'm not a fan of. Like, all the Linux talks and stuff I go to, people are always saying, hey, when it comes to Android, it's Linux at its core. And why this is not false, I mean, it's so far from being a Linux environment. Android is its own beast, in my opinion. It's almost like its own category. I don't even think of it like Linux. So I'm just not a big fan of Android at all. I absolutely hate it, just because of all the spying and all the things that come with Android. And it's just what it started out as is morphed into this monster that it just is unidentifiable to me today. So I don't really like Android. However, that's what I use on my phone. I mean, heck, I'm rocking a Pixel 3 right here, so I'm still using an Android phone by every stretch of the imagination. It's just I don't like it. Silver blue instead of regards to Fedora. Yeah, insert Librem 5 plug here. Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on a Librem 5. That's really the thing that I'm waiting for. And I've been talking to Purism about that. And as soon as I can, I'm going to get in a Librem 5. And you guys will be the first to know as soon as I get it, because I'm sure it'll be all over my community feed. I'll be in Discord. I'll be everywhere with that darn phone, that's for sure. I can't wait to hack into it and just start doing kind of crazy stuff. I'm going to SSH into it, start loading Linux distros, all kinds of different things, just to see what all I can do. Obviously, after doing a really good backup. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. What's the best book to know about learning Linux commands? Ashwin, if you go to christitus.com/recommendations, I have a whole listing of Linux books. And those are kind of like the top rated ones on Amazon. Most of them are extremely relevant today. Even, I think the oldest one I have on there is about 3 years old, because there's a lot of old Linux books that aren't as relevant as they were when they were made. Most of the ones on my recommendations, though, are pretty recent, so you can pick one of those up. Why Pop! OS is the only distro that makes Gnome 3 fast and snappy. Fun fact, though, like Pop! OS isn't for everybody. One of my top tier patrons contacted me and said, hey, he did not like Pop! OS. He thought it was far too bloated, and it kind of slowed his system down. And when I heard him say this, I was like, oh, this is almost like a challenge for me, because if Pop! OS, one thing he pointed out was Pop! OS loaded almost every single language into its that factory. So if you were an English speaker, and it would load all the languages anyways, even if you said it's just English. So Pop can be a little bloated on the install. For me, I never really noticed because I just don't pay attention to bloat, because most of my machines are pretty powerful and I just don't care too much about space, especially coming from Windows. Everything in Linux seems like it's super lightweight. Yeah, but hey. Hey, Switch to Linux is in the channel. Hi, how's it going, Tom? Any ETA on the Librem 5 now? Last I heard is Q3. They haven't given me exact month yet. I can't wait for that, but Q3 I'm pretty sure they're going to hit because it's already been pushed back, I think, twice now. It was originally going to be closer to the start of the year. It got to about summer, I think, was when they were looking at it, and then they pushed it to Q3 just to do it. But I'm seeing a lot more videos come out, a lot more content about the Librem 5 and the dev kits. I think they just want to iron it out a little bit. I don't think they wanted another Ubuntu Touch situation where it just falls dead on it, falls on its face when it launches. So, I props to Purism for taking the time to flush it out. I'm curious to see what happens when that launch comes, and you guys will know what happens when it does. So I'm gonna love that. Doesn't come with the Polish language in the ISO. Yeah, you had to download it after install. That's hilarious. So it comes with every other language but Polish. Yeah.
RPI running Mixcloud.
What? Oh, what's your thought on Raspberry Pi running Nextcloud instance 24/7? Horrible idea, man. Don't do it. Raspberry Pi usually runs on an SD card, and SD cards definitely break. I did a bunch of a buddy of mine. He works for or worked at is a senior systems engineer for a healthcare company, nationwide company, and he did a lot of security and pen testing. So I poked a couple holes in my firewall and set up a Pi and put a web server and just the standard stuff, and just opened up port 80 and 443, and then kind of did some firewall stuff for him, and just said, "Hey, you can't hack into this." And I don't know what exactly he did, but he did something to where it was doing a lot of reading and writing on that SD card, and overnight he bricked my Raspberry Pi just by all the read and writes. He didn't actually get into the system, but he did manage to completely destroy it. So there's that. But long story short, yeah, Raspberry Pi in the long term, I have seen people run like Raspberry Pi clusters with like a centralized storage that had like ZFS on it. That's kind of cool. Especially I've seen Raspberry Pi like Kubernetes things and that type of thing, which I'm going to go into Kubernetes here soon too. That's probably going to be another July because I need some more time to really flush that out to make a really good teachable point, because there's really no good Kubernetes classes out there, and most of the things I've gone to have been very hit and miss, and most of the instructors I didn't feel were very well versed and didn't speak it or actually didn't teach in a way that I thought was very easy to learn. And I wanted to get my instruction on Kubernetes to a point to where anybody can pick it up and use it, and it's really a really cool way to manage containers. So I'm looking forward to teaching everybody about that coming up here next month as well. But getting back to your original question, running Raspberry Pi on a Nextcloud instance, don't do it. Definitely your storage should be in a central place with some mirroring if you're going to be doing Nextcloud.
Where's your CEO?
Yeah, the CEO is just here, but he split. However, I do have something here. One second. Let me see if I can't. Can it reach? This one looks like he's just dead on the floor. Check that out. He's just spread eagle. I mean, what is that? What kind of cat does that? I mean, he looks dead. Yeah, I'm talking to you, man. Don't worry. There's only like 100 people watching you right now. All right. Oh, Lord. what do you think about ZFS and ButterFS? Or BetterFS. I like saying ButterFS. ZFS, I am a huge fan of. Anybody that's followed me for any time, I absolutely love ZFS. It's my favorite file system, far and away. There's nothing that really even comes close to ZFS, in my opinion. BetterFS, it is constantly worked on. The Linux team has constantly been improving things on it with each kernel release, and they're really pushing it really hard, and it is getting a lot better than what it was. But it's still no ZFS, in my opinion. I'm going to try BetterFS on my next install, because I'm kicking Dropbox completely to the curb and moving completely to Nextcloud. I'm waiting till I get my rack all set up in the studio, and once I have full enterprise redundancy, I'm be completely fine with completely killing all my cloud file-based services, bringing everything in-house, and then just doing it all that way. So, and then doing a backup using like Backblaze. Backblaze does a lot of really bulk storage, especially for enterprise environments, but for a home environment, basically it's like $5 a month, and you get unlimited storage, like true unlimited storage, which is incredible. So I really like their services. Backblaze is what I'll use for like encrypted backups, and then have everything stored here locally, and no longer use Dropbox or Google Drive, or I don't think really. I mean, some people do use Microsoft's. God, why am I drawing a blank here? I want to say SkyDrive, but OneDrive is one. SkyDrive turned into OneDrive, but OneDrive sometimes, because of Office 365, you get a terabyte for free. I absolutely despise OneDrive, but that's a different story altogether. You wanted to know my opinion about running Linux on F2FS file system on NVMe SSD. I have not run Linux on an F2FS file system on an NVMe SSD. I bet it would be pretty awesome. I don't see any issues with it, but then again, I don't really run F2FS very often. I think I've installed it like one time, and that's it. So I can't give you much feedback on that. I wish I could. You know, I really love XFCE. I think my next install, I might go back to XFCE. KDE is really cool, and I really like it, but it is a lot more bloated when compared to XFCE, and I really am looking forward to just kind of going back to that, because once you customize XFCE, it's really nice. Just out of the box, it's so ugly, and that's what most people hate about it as a desktop environment. I think I just swallowed a fly that landed in my drink.
Protein.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, there's CEO.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Who's your favorite YouTuber, Chris?
Who's my favorite YouTuber? I don't. Yeah, I don't really. I don't really have a favorite per se. There's a lot that I like to watch, but no one specific one that I'm like, oh my god, I never miss a video, because honestly, a lot of times I just don't have the time to absorb content through video format. When I'm really strapped for time, I can't watch very many YouTube videos except in my car when I'm driving, which is horrible. What do I think about i3 Window Manager? i3 I should love. Using and getting around Linux completely in using keyboard shortcuts, I should absolutely love this. However, I don't. In practice, I tried i3 for about a week, and I just couldn't make the adjustment, and I had a lot of stuff going on too, so I couldn't really dive into it as much as I want to. But I'm going to give i3 a fair shake again and get back to it. But the first time I jumped to it, I thought I'd really love it, and I didn't. But hey, hopefully. More wine tutorials. yes, I will definitely be doing more wine tutorials, as most of the Windows audience I'm still trying to pull in. That's why you do see Windows videos on my channel. Is a lot of that is I'm trying to pull in more Windows users to Linux, increase that awareness and adoption, give them more choices, and more choices means more wine compatibility and those types of things. So.
You should.
Would you make a video about customizing Linux to look exactly like Windows? I actually have made this video. It's actually part of my GitHub page, which I can actually show you. Let me pull that up. GitHub. All right. And if you go to actually Gnome Layout Manager here, this is actually a split from a different person's project. All I did was update it, but there's some really cool things you can do with it. You can make Gnome look like Unity if you're a big Unity guy from Ubuntu 17 days. You can make it look exactly like Windows, icons, a lot of the look and feel. So yeah, you can totally do this. If you really miss that Windows look and feel, and this is just using Gnome. Now in KDE, which I'm using, it feels a lot like Windows. I honestly like KDE a little bit better than doing this method and modifying Gnome to do all this, because it does rely on a lot of extensions like Dash to Panel, Top Icons Plus, which I think some of these are really getting depreciated. So I wouldn't rely on this method very much. And then of course you can make it look like Mac. So yeah, you can make all that happen. It's not a big deal. That's one thing I love about Linux, is you can just make it do whatever you want. It's just a matter of having the knowledge to do it. And that's where most people fall down. But yeah, you can make anything look however you want in Linux. So I need to actually, Sebastian, I actually need to go into Awesome and learn a lot more about Awesome. I'm falling behind in that. Well, I mean, why change to Linux and customize it to be Windows? Because that's what people know when you've been doing the same operating system the same way for 15 something years. It change is hard for folks. It just is. So breaking some of that change in, like using wine compatibility to do Windows programs, even though not optimal, and I don't really use any Windows programs anymore, during that first 60 to 90 days, I did use a lot of Windows programs using Wine. It was not optimal, but it kind of broke me in, and then I got to actually switch over to FOSS software, like GIMP and those types of things, instead of using the proprietary things like Photoshop and a lot of the Office suite. Although I still use a lot of online Office, just one of those things. I still like online Office. I really need to. I know everyone's always getting on me about not using LibreOffice or OpenOffice, but I'll get there. One of these days, one of these years, I'll get there. What is your thought about Linux basic systems that every home should run? Linux basic systems. Oh, I'd say phones. If you ever have a home phone, I think using an Asterisk box, or Asterisk, like a free PBX based Asterisk, if you're not into doing everything through the CLI, is a good way to have like almost a free phone, because you just pay for an IP trunk, which is $5 a month, I think. Pretty menial. Or you can go like month to month or pay as you go and do like $1 or $2. That's kind of a cool little Linux home-based system. A lot of the smart home stuff, you got to really watch out, because there's a lot of proprietary stuff where a lot of smart home stuff in the Linux environment would be very good. And like other things like Linux-based security systems, obviously definitely go with those. As you go to like these big companies like ADT, Brinks, and those types of things, and all their stuff's extremely locked down and proprietary, to where They lock you into these big contracts, charge you huge monthly rates, and that's how they make up for these free installs they kind of hook people in on. So paying up front and doing like a Linux-based open source system would be obviously the way to go on that front too. So there's tons of rooms for Linux in the house. I'm slowly trying to transition almost all of my stuff to free and open software. Like my router, I think I'm using OpenSense now, so that's really nice. So I don't have like Netgear, Linksys, or any of that crap. Everything is just coming directly in, and it's coming directly from a modem. There is no proprietary gateway that it's going through because I have Spectrum instead of AT&T. AT&T forces you to use their gateway, so hey. Take it easy, Tom. Thanks for stopping by, man. What are the best areas of Linux for remote work? Best areas of Linux for remote work, like SSH, or are you using X11 forwarding, those types of things? I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. Do Linux distributions have a built-in XPS viewer? I don't think so by default. You need to download that. Almost everything in most Linux distributions you have to kind of expand on. So that's like a lot of Windows users coming to Linux come in and expect everything to just kind of be there. And it just depends on the distribution where your starting point is. You can get it there. It's just all of them fall short in certain areas. I'm not really happy with almost any distribution. Just some things are a little easier on beginners. So when it comes to Windows user coming to Linux, I always say Linux Mint and Pop! OS, because both kind of give a unique experience and a very friendly experience for someone new, because they do have a lot of bundled software that come with it, you know, and they may even have an XPS viewer. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Have you ever used the tab interface in LibreOffice? I have not. I have not used LibreOffice very much. I've used the writer a bunch, but not too much past that. Yeah, as far as the Steam 64-bit and 32-bit goes, a lot of people made a big stink about this past week, thinking that 32-bit can just be kicked to the curb. And it's not that Steam is keeping 32-bit alive. It's quite the opposite. There's a lot of older games. Think of like Diablo or games from the 2000s during the 32-bit era that people still play today. Those require 32-bit libraries to function, and the only way to actually get around that is to do like a snap or a flat pack or an app image and bundle all those in with the actual game itself, or install it in with the game. And nobody's going to go back through and do that with these old games. So for gaming, 32-bit libraries are a must. That's why when I saw like Ubuntu dropping it and the Linux Gamer saying the end of gaming on Linux, it was just, I was like, whatever. They're going to reverse the course. There's no way you can drop 32-bit, because not only is there the gaming aspect, but there's also the Wine aspect of it as well. Because when you have a compatibility layer like Wine, you absolutely have to have those 32-bit libraries, because Windows itself, I remember when Vista came out and 64-bit became a thing on Windows, and there was the 64-bit version of Vista, and people were having issues running 32-bit applications on it because there were some issues. Obviously, there was a lot of issues when Vista came out, but that was one of the biggest things, this huge confusion between 64 and 32. And it's still a thing today, and 32 is going to stick around for a long time, the foreseeable future. Ubuntu, I think, was just getting a little bit ahead of themselves, especially in the server space, where, obviously 32-bit doesn't matter because you're not going to be running Wine and you're not going to be playing games in the server realm. So 32-bit doesn't matter. Have you discovered to use anything to replace the Windows Remote Desktop and administer it, taking into account security and encryption? Chris, this is a great question. The best way to replace Windows Remote Desktop is to use SSH and X11 forwarding. It's not a quite cohesive product like that. I've tried a bunch of other stuff, like if you want just a install and play kind of thing. I've tried like the NX protocol using like No Machine, and it was it was okay. It was close to the remote desktop. It had encryption and other stuff, and it was nice, but not something that I was like totally where I was like, hey, this has to happen. So for me, the best remoting on Linux is using SSH and X11, and then having like LXDE for a secondary desktop environment because it's so lightweight. You can stream your entire desktop and get a better experience than you would on remoting into Windows. So using the SSH method with LXDE, you can do some really powerful stuff, and it's really awesome. However, it is a bit technical compared to just remote desktop, which I find pretty easy. But then again, I've used remote desktop on Windows for decades, and it's not quite as intuitive as that. Is there a big advantage installing Arch UEFI over legacy DOS? UEFI and GPT, it does a little bit better job as far as the partition tables because GPT actually leaves kind of a copy at the very beginning of the header and at the very end of the header. So when a drive starts to go bad, a lot of times it'll be at the beginning of the header because it gets read so much. Well, it corrupts the actual hard drive and then you have trouble reading it. Where a GPT drive, it can actually have that secondary backup and read from that super block and restore it. It's also why like ext4 is a better platform than NTFS, because with NTFS's journaling, it really gets screwed up pretty easily, where ext4 also does those backups to where you can have some corruption and still recover a lot of data. So I really like GPT. However, it is a little harder to set up. So most people don't do it. And when I'm doing like virtual machines and things, there's no point. So what I do is I usually do a legacy DOS type system, and that just does the standard MBR. But is there an advantage to GPT? Yeah, there's a little bit of an advantage. It's just most people don't like using UEFI and GPT because it is a bit more complex. But you know, whatever floats your boat. Both are not bad decisions. I wouldn't say you have to upgrade from one, the legacy, to UEFI and GPT. Don't feel compelled to, but it is nice to learn about it because they are really good. I do think they are an upgrade from legacy DOS. That, and it is a little prettier. Do I need antivirus for Linux? It depends on what you're doing. So this gets asked a lot, and I've made a video about specifically this as well. Most instances you don't, because you're downloading from trusted repos, and those repos are fairly safe, if not very safe, on Linux. So it's very hard to get infected. Not impossible. There's ways to do it. But I haven't seen a really nasty virus on Linux. I've actually got a virus and was successfully in running the virus in using wine. So I have actually done that, and it did lock up my system. However, on reboot, because it was in a wine bottle, it was so isolated, it didn't spread through the system or anything like that. I just went in and blew out the wine bottle, and it was gone. But it's still one of those things. I still scan for viruses just because I always have. Maybe once a month on my Linux box, I'll go ahead and run a scan. But as far as like monitoring and real resource heavy things, no, I really don't think you need anything crazy as far as an antivirus in Linux. Antivirus in Windows, a completely different story. Absolutely have to have antivirus in Windows, just because how the packages are delivered are in such a far more unsecure method than on Linux. Do you use UEFI or Legacy? I use UEFI on my laptop. I use Legacy on my desktop, and mainly Legacy on my desktop because my Windows install on my secondary drive is really old and it doesn't use UEFI. So if I use UEFI in Linux, I can't use the boot screen to boot into Windows from the UEFI in Linux. So I'm kind of on Linux DOS or legacy DOS on my main PC for a while. However, on a fresh install, usually I'll do UEFI and a GPT table, partition table.
Game of Thrones season 8 dissatisfied.
How dissatisfied were you with Game of Thrones season 8? About the same as everyone else. It was just so rushed, so disappointing, and wow. I don't know why they didn't break that out into 2 seasons or 10 episodes or pretty much anything else than what they did. Have you ever used Shorewall or Firehall? Firehall all the time. I'm using it right now. Negan. But yeah, Negan. Firehall I use all the time. Usually the level 3 list is what I use to constantly download. OpenSense and pfSense have ways. I think I actually made a video about it too, about utilizing those block lists because they are very nice and they help secure you. So I usually use Firehall and 2 other block list providers. I don't use Shorewall. I use 2 other ones that are actually pretty good as well. Can KDE Connect work as an iTunes replacement for syncing and transferring data from iPhones? If not, what are the alternatives? I don't have an answer for that because iTunes, I've tried to get working in Wine, and the problem with it, I can get it launching and everything. However, getting the USB passed through to it and actually have it interface and do things correctly is a bit of a headache. But iTunes is also getting discontinued by Apple and kind of changing, so thank God for that. So we'll see what happens. But as far as using KDE Connect in the iPhone, it doesn't, I imagine, work all that well. I don't have an iPhone to test this just because iPhones use PRAM. It's like protected memory, and it's very difficult for a lot of applications to access its system level to do a lot of the things that KDE Connect would need to do to make it function properly. So even though I haven't tested this, I can almost assure you it doesn't work the same way as iTunes because iTunes is built by Apple. It has the keys to that walled garden where no other application will ever get those keys. And that's just how Apple sets up their ecosystems. But that's a rant for another day. Do a video on common desktop environment. Will do, Brad. Will do. Oh. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut this stream short. I just want to hop on here, kind of touch base with you all, and just kind of give you, fill you in what's been going on with me. And it has just been so much fun getting all these videos out, switching over to YouTube full time. It's still an adjustment. I'm still adjusting, but I'm absolutely loving how everything's going. And I think in July, you're going to see a lot of new content, a lot of new stuff that is going to be really awesome. And I'm looking forward to it. Now, I'm going to probably try and stream later this week as well, and maybe do how fast can I install Arch Linux from scratch, vanilla Arch, with a desktop environment, with all the goodies that you need for a vanilla Arch instance to really jive and work, and do that on the live stream. That might be a fun project for everyone to see. And I might jump around and do a couple more live Linux installs just so you get that experience, because a lot of the install videos you look at on YouTube are sped up, cut, and all those things. And if anybody ever remembers my Debian live stream and the disaster that was, I'd love to have a couple drinks and do more live installs for sure. But needless to say, a lot of fun stuff in store, guys. But I just want to stop on here. Thank you guys for hopping in here. Thank you for watching my videos. I really appreciate all that you do, commenting on them. I've learned a lot of stuff on comments, and my listing for all the stuff that needs to happen, and all my videos. Even though I've been doing a video every single day, I have just such a backlog of ideas that I still haven't gotten out of the actual idea stage into actual video form. So really looking forward to catching up on all that. But again, thank you all, and I'll see you guys later. Again, look for the live stream on Thursday, and otherwise you can always hit me up on Discord. I'm going to go ahead and drop my Discord link in chat here, and you guys can continue chatting over there. I'll probably hop in there for the next 5 to 10 minutes and talk with you guys over on that front and just kill this live stream. But just do christitus.com/Discord. That's just a short link that takes you over to the Discord and gives you that invite. If you have any problems, let me know. But other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one.
But they laugh on